The gates of Troy swing open, not in defeat, but in triumph. Instead of smoldering ruins, the city stands proud, its towers gleaming in the dawn. Greek warriors march inside not as conquerors but as allies, their spears lowered in respect. Achilles clasps Hector's hand in brotherhood, while Priam and Agamemnon embrace before the altar of Zeus. In this world, the Trojan War ends not in fire but in union, Greece and Troy forging one civilization, a Bronze Age superpower that rewrites the destiny of the West. In our history, the Trojan War, if it occurred at all, ended with Troy's destruction around the 12th century BCE, whether myth or history. Homer's Iliad immortalized the clash of Greeks and Trojans, Hector slain by Achilles, the Trojan horse tricking defenders, the city burned. Afterward, the Greek world plunged into the so-called Dark Ages, a centuries-long decline in literacy, trade, and unity. Only later, around 800 BCE, did the Greek city-states revive, eventually birthing democracy, philosophy, and empire. But what if that famous war had ended differently? What if, instead of endless bloodshed, the conflict resolved in alliance? The turning point could be Hector and Achilles. In Homer, their duel is the climax of rage and tragedy. But imagine a truce. The two champions fight, but instead of Hector's death, the battle ends in stalemate. Both armies, exhausted, press for peace. Priam, wise king of Troy, and Agamemnon, ambitious high king of the Greeks, recognize the futility of endless war. Helen is returned, her fate negotiated, and instead of Troy falling, the Greeks and Trojans forge a pact of union. The immediate effect is staggering. Instead of Troy burned, it thrives. Troy's strategic location at the Dardanelles, the gateway between the Aegean and the Black Sea, combines with Greece's power at sea. Together, they dominate trade from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Grain from the steppes, gold from Anatolia, wine and olive oil from the Aegean all flow through their hands. A new empire is born, wealthier and stronger than any rival. Zoom into ordinary lives. A Greek potter in Athens, once struggling with war disruption, now ships his vases to Troy under royal contracts. His son learns Trojan script alongside Greek. In Troy, a young merchant grows rich trading Greek bronze weapons for Anatolian tin. Soldiers who once faced each other across the plain now serve side by side, defending the new alliance. Ordinary families, once torn by war, marry across cultures, weaving together Greek and Trojan bloodlines. Religion evolves too. Troy and Greece share gods, Zeus, Apollo, Athena, but with different traditions, united, their pantheons blend. Trojan devotion to Apollo merges with Greek worship of Athena, creating hybrid cults that spread across the empire. Festivals once held in Olympia or Troy become shared spectacles, bringing together thousands in displays of unity. Myth itself changes. Instead of tales of betrayal and destruction, epic poets sing of reconciliation and brotherhood. Homer's Iliad might not be a tragedy, but a hymn to unity. Politically, this union prevents fragmentation. Historically, Greece's city-states often fought each other, rarely uniting until the Persian Wars. In this alternate world, a central authority emerges centuries earlier. A dual monarchy, perhaps Agamemnon's descendants ruling Greece and Priam's descendants ruling Troy, maintains balance. A council of city-states forms, foreshadowing federations like the later Delian League, but stronger and more enduring. The Dark Ages never come. Instead of collapse, literacy continues. Troy's connections to Anatolia and the Near East bring writing, trade, and technology directly into Greece. Linear B, the Greek script, evolves continuously, spreading literacy to broader populations. Trade links remain strong, cities grow instead of shrinking, and cultural progress accelerates. By 1000 BCE, while in our timeline Greece struggled in obscurity, this united Greco-Trojan empire dominates the eastern Mediterranean. The Phoenicians, famous for seafaring, face a powerful rival. Carthage may never rise, its role as a maritime empire preempted. Egypt, weakened after centuries of decline, negotiates with Troy and Greece as equals, not as overlords. The Hittites, already in decline, cannot resist the combined force of Troy and Greece. Now imagine the cultural flowering. The Greek genius for philosophy, theater, and art merges with Trojan traditions and Near Eastern influences. Epic poetry blossoms centuries early. Instead of Homer in the 8th century BCE, we may see philosophers and dramatists emerging by 1100 BCE. By 800 BCE, when Greece historically was just recovering, this empire might already be experimenting with forms of democracy, law codes, and advanced philosophy. Zoom again into lives. A farmer in Sparta pays tribute not to a local king but to a pan-Hellenic Trojan authority. His children attend festivals where Trojan and Greek myths intertwine. In Troy, artisans craft jewelry mixing Aegean styles with Anatolian goldsmithing. A poet sings of Achilles and Hector not as enemies but as brothers who ended war through strength and wisdom. Generations grow up with unity as their mythic foundation. The ripple effects are enormous. When Persia rises centuries later, it faces not divided Greek city-states but a unified empire. Marathon, Thermopylae, and Salamis never occur. The Persians are checked long before they can threaten. Alexander the Great, if he ever rises, may not lead Macedon but a descendant of this Greco-Trojan alliance, commanding a power already spanning from the Aegean to Anatolia. His conquests may stretch not eastward into Persia but westward into Europe, colonizing Italy, Gaul, and Iberia centuries earlier. Religion and philosophy ripple outward. With continuity of learning, monotheistic tendencies may arise earlier, perhaps blending Near Eastern traditions with Greek rationalism. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam may still emerge, but under the influence of a Greco-Trojan intellectual world. Philosophy begins not with Socrates, but with an earlier tradition that blends Greek logic and Trojan pragmatism. Western civilization accelerates by centuries. By the time Rome would historically rise, this Greco-Trojan empire dominates the Mediterranean. Rome, a small Italian city, never grows into an empire. Latin never becomes the language of the West. Instead, Greek infused with Trojan dialects becomes the lingua franca. Western law, politics, and science develop under a different banner, shaped by an empire that valued both sea and land, both Greece and Anatolia. Fast forward to the modern world, the Renaissance, which drew on classical Greece and Rome, instead draws on an unbroken Greco-Trojan tradition. There is no rediscovery of knowledge because it was never lost. Science, literature, and art develop continuously, perhaps leading to earlier industrialization. The age of exploration begins not with Spain and Portugal, but with heirs of Troy and Greece, sailing west across the Mediterranean and Atlantic. But there are darker sides. Empires often suppress as much as they uplift. A united Greco-Trojan power may crush local independence, stifling the variety of cultures that historically thrived. Instead of Athens' democracy, Sparta's militarism, and Troy's diplomacy, all flowering independently, there is one dominant system. Progress may accelerate, but diversity may be lost. Still, the vision is staggering. A Bronze Age alliance, forged not in destruction, but in reconciliation, shaping the world centuries ahead of schedule. Homer's tales would not be tragedies of rage and ruin, but epics of brotherhood and empire. The modern world might look back not to Rome or Athens, but to Troy and Greece together, the twin cradles of Western civilization. So, what do we make of it? If the Trojan War united Greece and Troy, the West as we know it would be utterly transformed. No dark ages, no fractured city-states, no slow climb back to greatness. Instead, an early empire, a cultural flowering, and perhaps a global civilization centuries ahead of time. So, what do you think? Would Achilles and Hector's brotherhood have birthed a better world, or would unity have come at the cost of freedom? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Sheriff Reactions for daily flips, because history isn't just what happened, it's what could have happened.